The Florida Panthers go into New Jersey against a very desperate Devils team. Went through a coaching change, but the Florida Panthers, behind some depth scoring, never trail in this one, and they sweep the 3-game road trip.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, March 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. You can follow this show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And Florida Panther fans, what a win for the Cats as they once again increased their lead in the race for the division and the President's Trophy, getting a win tonight in New Jersey, and with the Boston Bruins losing in overtime after holding a 1-0 lead in the final minute for Boston, and then they end up losing in overtime. So the Florida Panthers just continue winning. 6-game winning streak, their five-game winning streak of the season. Great to see for the Cats. Right behind Stolarz, the goalie, and some depth scoring. But it's a Wednesday, which means it is a Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Jacob Winans is back here. And Jacob, man, another win for the Cats with some depth scoring and all. And great to see that they're, despite tired bodies for the Cats, on the second end, they get the dub once again.
Yeah, they're on a roll right now. Everything's firing on all cylinders. Penalty kill's working well. Power play's on fire. Second unit scored tonight. Nick Cousins found the back of the net twice playing on the second line. There's really not a whole lot missing from this team right now. And the Panthers gave up 3 goals tonight, which that they haven't really done. It's been 2 or fewer for pretty much every game since the new year. But in a game where they give up 3, which is an abnormally high number for them, a pretty regular number for the rest of the league, they back that up with 5 goals of their own, and it's no big deal. They still win comfortably in the end. And they're getting most encouraging thing is these aren't blowout games. These aren't necessarily all comeback games. It's close hockey beginning to end, and then they're closing it out at the end of games with empty netters and solid defense. It's a recipe for winning. This team that's pacing right now for a President's Trophy is very, very different from the one 2 seasons ago that won the President's Trophy. There's a lot more confidence with this play style.
Yeah, and more sustainable for the Panthers for sure. But let's also talk about really how going into this one, I mean, spoke about it in the post game last night, going into where the New Jersey Devils, new coach bump. You never know what's going to happen going into this one, which teams this season during the midseason coaching change are 5-1, now 5-2 after this one. So getting the 2 goals early for the Cats as well, where Matthew Tkachuk primary assist on both of them. I mean, you think about how the New Jersey Devils, the Panthers, they only gave up 1 shot on goal even at 5-on-5 in the first period. But there's also some desperation for the New Jersey Devils as trying to break it out of their zone, connecting tape to tape, which wasn't happening. And when you think about their 12 shot attempts and only 1 of them getting on goal, you feel like that there was a little bit of a panic there for the New Jersey Devils, and the Panthers just great with avoiding breakouts for the New Jersey Devils. Even though Cousins turned the puck over originally, Sam Bennett finishes a check. Matthew Tkachuk chips it up, and then he scored. And then Nick Cousins scores backhand, which Kears Mead, I don't know. Looking at that, that's one that you probably should have saved because you're on the top of your crease taking away that angle and all. Erod gets on the board with the power play, but also the jump that the New Jersey Devils they they brought it in the second period. I mean, so you gotta credit to the Panthers for still finding a way to get the scoring quickly, even when the Devils tied the game at 2, thanks to Eetu Luostarinen for the Panthers. 11 goals on the season now for him, and really the amount of chances that Stolarz, the goalie, got as far as saves. There was one where Jack Hughes was driving towards the net, pad was down, multiple opportunities, and then stopping two rebound chances by Nico Hischier, which even if Nico Hischier scored this on the second opportunity, it wouldn't have counted because I believe it was Tyler Toffoli that crashed into Stolarz there, but still stood tall. And the defense, Stolarz isn't necessarily the most tactical goalie when it comes to it, but you see him sprawling out. But the defense, they know what to do when he is around in that. They hang around the blue paint and they're clears. You think about the goals that were given up by the Panthers too. One off a redirection off of Forsling's stick and all, and then the third one through a screen, which Stolarz didn't see at all too. So gotta give credit to everyone around, even though we might have seen 3 goals on the board on the stat sheet on the box score, but this isn't a goaltending performance where this isn't a goaltending performance where you're coming out scratching your head. You come out of this and you're pretty content with it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think goaltending has been a real strength lately, but the defense has done a great job of protecting the house, clearing those rebounds. There haven't been a ton of them, but when the rebounds are given up, clearing them out right away. You saw early in the game, OEL takes a puck pretty much right off the goal line. There's been a few instances like that in the past few games where the defense has had to come up big with some clears, and that's important come playoff time because the action tends to get a little bit more intense around the net. Big goals are scored in the crease, not from the outside, and getting comfortable with protecting your goalie, clearing out those rebounds. It's something the Panthers have definitely honed in on the last few weeks. But yeah, like you said, depth scoring was huge tonight, which has been, if the Panthers have one concern this season, it's been depth scoring. But tonight you get a goal from Erod, you get a goal from Eetu, who's really playing some great hockey right now. He got off to kind of a slow start, given that he was with a bunch of different line mates and had some bigger responsibility with Sam Bennett out. He kind of got off to a slow start, but he's playing some incredible hockey right now. So he gets on the board with a nice goal. And then Nick Cousins scoring twice. That it took him, I think he had a goal drought over roughly 40 games.
34,
yeah, between his first and second goal, and then he gets 2 in one night. He's elevated his game lately, which is big, getting close to playoff time. So the depth players are coming through. Well, it remains to be seen whether or not there's going to be some trade deadline additions, but the guys that are playing right now are performing well, and this is the time where you want to see that. After the trade deadline, it's full steam ahead towards the playoffs, and you want to be playing your best hockey when you get there. If you really think about it, the lone loss the Panthers have had in the last million years was a 1-0 game in Carolina with a last-second goal. I mean, they really haven't had a letdown in play. New Jersey's another team. We talked about it with Buffalo. We talked about it with Ottawa. A team that's not performing well in the standings but has playoff-type talent. The Panthers manhandled them tonight. That's a team that the Panthers really took advantage of physically. And that was a team that was expected to contend for a Stanley Cup this year. They've underperformed. They haven't gotten the goaltending. You saw that tonight, but that's another team with playoff-type talent that the Panthers went into their building and kind of pushed around on the second night of a back-to-back. It's encouraging.
5-0-1 on the second end of a back-to-back and giving up 7 goals in those 6 games too. So, and their only loss was that shootout loss in Toronto back in November.
Yep. It's the defensive style. After on the second night of back-to-back, you don't necessarily have the legs, not necessarily have the speed and the jump offensively, but when you bring hard defense and really shut things down, you see the results you're getting on the second nights of back-to-backs.
Yeah, and also I want to I want to give credit to Eetu Luostarinen for also waiting for that shooting lane to open after that stretch pass from Kulikov and just the patience he had on that shot. And that was to make it 3-2 at the time. And we're going to mention, I'm specifically going to mention that sometime later. And also the Panthers' ability to contain Jack Hughes, 3 shots on goal. He got 2 points on the night and a lot of juggling. They shortened the bench. Simon Nemec was a scratch tonight. A little bit of maybe a rookie wall for him as far as that. And the Panthers also on the New Jersey Devils side of things, no second ball. We're not on the bench in the final part of the third period too. So there was a lot of line jugglings that Travis Green had to do in this one. So that was not an easy first opponent for the New Jersey Devils coming off of a coaching change, and also strange timing with the deadline coming up on Thursday as well. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won or lost. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. And it's almost the halfway point of the season. And regardless of where the Florida Panthers are in the standings, which Panthers are the first team to 90 points. But I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests. And all you have to do is pick whether studs like Sam Reinhart, Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, or Nathan McKinnon, if they will score more or less their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, or more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Cats fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONAHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Code LOCKEDONAHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Also, this episode is brought to you by Robinhood. And did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with the 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started with Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claims as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRA and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. Segment number 2 here on this Wednesday, March 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Winans Wednesday edition of the show. And also, happy 305 day to everybody and the Panther fans who happen to be from Dade County. And saw a post was talking about this with Jacob pre-recording, how Inter Miami posted a picture of all the teams and put the Panthers and Inter Miami in it. But I told Jacob I would let it slide because that's where the Panthers started back in 1993, which, if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can see I'm wearing my Miami Arena t-shirt. And also Inter Miami will be soon moving over to Miami Freedom Park near MIA. But Jacob, let's go to our 3 stars of the game for this one for the Florida Panthers in their 5-3 win over the New Jersey Devils. Also, Jacob, we didn't even mention that Sam Reinhart added to the tally 45 goals and on the empty net after multiple denials. Also, Luke Hughes, denying that that empty net goal at the beginning, and then Panthers working around and multiple stops, but still able to convert there. But 3 stars for me. Number one, this is a rarity. He won't get many. It won't be often where he is the first star of the game. And number one has to go to Nick Cousins for me. 2 goals on the night, and also as he was going to the bench, I think he put his hand towards his ear as he was walking towards the bench after his second one on that redirection right off a faceoff too. Second one is Matthew Tkachuk. Those 2 primary assists early on that really turned it on for the Panthers early on to get it to a 2-0 lead, 6:30 into the game. Now Matthew Tkachuk has 50 assists on the season, the heater that he's on since Christmas. By the way, Panthers 14-1-0 since Christmas is on the road. So just continuing their road success. And 3rd star, Eetu Luostarinen. Why? How quickly they were able to get to that 3-2 lead after the New Jersey Devils tied it up at 2, and right off a face-off win, a little bit of a scramble around the net, and then Timo Meier just one hand gets it into the net, but for you, Jacob, who are your 3 stars of the game for this one?
My 3 stars are the same 3, just slightly different order. So I'll start with my third. It's Eetu. His goal was incredible, and it was really, really timely. But for me, the reason I have him as my 3rd star is not even that goal. It was his penalty killing tonight was great, and his defense tonight was great. It's Panthers are playing in a way right now where they don't have to match lines. You tweeted about it, or you posted about it, where they don't have to have second change to be successful. They feel confident with any of their lines matching up against anybody, and Eetu is a big reason for that. Because defensively, he's been rock solid. And Kevin Stenlund has taken a couple penalties in recent games where Etu's had to play PK with a different partner, and he's doing a fantastic job. So Etu's my 3rd star. My 2nd star is Nick Cousins. Wicked backhand goal, which is rare for a player like Cousins, who's seen more as a grinder and an agitator. Super skilled goal. And then the deflection one, which is more like what we're used to seeing him score. He was huge tonight. And then 1st star is Matthew Tkachuk. 2 primary assists, 1 secondary assist, but really driving the play for that line. Anyone you put on his other wing is playing fantastic. And that line is the offense is picking up, but so is the aggressiveness, the intensity, the forecheck. And they're just pissing a lot of people off, which is what you want to see from that line this time of year.
Yeah, and also, you mentioned his penalty killing and the fact that this was the first period penalty filled with this one. Only let me check. I believe it was only 14 minutes of that of the 20 in the first period that were played at 5-on-5. 14 minutes and 13 seconds to be exact. And 2 of the guys who went to the box were 2 of the Panthers' big penalty killers, with Kevin Stenlund and Sam Reinhart, which the Panthers were a little loose with their sticks early on. I believe it was 3 tripping penalties, not 2, 3, where they were just losing battles at the end board, which caused the Panthers to go to the box. So credit where credit is due, because Eetu had to work with someone else a lot during this, and even Barkov too had to work with someone else while Reinhart was in the box too. So credit to the penalty kill, despite giving up a goal in this one. But now let's go to the moment where I thought this game was won or lost. And this one, for me, it was in the 3rd period. The Panthers were up 3-2 going into the 3rd. But, man, was there a chance for it to be tied at 3 where Aaron Ekblad pinches, Alexander Barkov has to be the one to get back and back check. Jack Hughes, one of the rare breakaways that the New Jersey Devils had, hits off of the post. And I'm like, this is where he had that big sigh of relief and saying, whew, because we know what he can do, especially when he's healthy. You want to see a guy like him healthy and play a full season, because any year he could probably win the Rocket Richard. I really truly believe that for Jack Hughes, even though it took him a while to really get going. But But that was my moment when I thought this game was won or lost. How about you?
The end was kind of similar to a game we talked about recently with Buffalo, where they got pinned in their own zone and couldn't get the goalie out. This time the Panthers had the Devils pinned in their own zone with the goalie out, which is extremely rare to see. To have a team pinned in their own zone when they've got 6 on the ice and you've got 5, that's some incredible work. So it'd be easy to say that the game was won there. Mine was a little bit more early on, and I'm going to say it was when Evan Rodrigues scored to put the Panthers up 2-0.
Really early.
Even though New Jersey came back to tie it 2-2, it just, the way the Panthers are playing right now, a 2-goal lead might as well be 5. It doesn't feel like if the Panthers have a 2-goal lead, they're ever going to lose a game under those circumstances. Even when they give up 2, it seems really far out to imagine that a team scoring 3 in a row the way the Panthers are playing right now. So for me, that 2-goal lead, it's the best lead in hockey right now when the Panthers have it, and the way they're playing on the road, they're not giving up leads. It's rare to even see someone come back to tie it when it's a 2-goal lead for Florida. So I was really confident at that point. But yeah, you mentioned it. They're 14-1-0 on the road since Christmas, and that is kind of the recipe. Think back to last year in the playoffs. The Panthers, 3 of their 4 wins in the Boston series come on the road. 3 of their 4 wins against Toronto come on the road. 2-0 against Carolina on the road. You have to win on the road to win in the playoffs. And right now the Panthers are finding their stride on the road, and it's really become about protecting leads. And I think a 2-goal lead is pretty golden. So for me, it was Evan Rodrigues scoring that second goal early on. I felt like that demoralized the Devils.
Yeah, and you think about how the third period was reminiscent to Monday night too, and you're thinking when it's in back-to-back games, you think that the Panthers might miss their assignments more on a night like this versus last night, where you would expect them to put all their energy, but the energy was still there for the Cats still in this one. And when they did score to bring it to 4-3, 8 minutes left, that was only their 4th shot of the period too. So just to give you an idea, if you didn't watch this game, how well the Panthers protected the middle of the ice once again in back-to-back games in this one. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss the latest on the trade deadline. There could be someone who has a preferred destination, which is South Florida. We're going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And no matter how great the last game went, anytime you take the ice, you got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is a hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you guarantee to find quality applications and meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Indeed partners with you every step of the hiring process with great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessment, and virtual interviews. And Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent according to ComScore. Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. And Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon, valid through March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Locked On Sports Today has the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Back on this Wednesday, March 6th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday. So, Jacob, the latest as far as the trade deadline is, regardless of opinion, another player has a preferred destination to South Florida. We saw it with Claude Giroux, Matthew Tkachuk, but both of them via trades. Joel Thornton in free agency 2 years ago, even though he was on the tail end of his career. But now there's another one. We spoke about him a few days ago here on the show. Don't know if he's a fit here, but Vladimir Tarasenko, currently of the Ottawa Senators, scores big-time playoff goals, 5th in the last 10 years. He now has said that his preferred destination, which he has a no trade clause, which he can waive, his preferred destination is, in fact, the Florida Panthers. And another update on the trade deadline and extensions is that the Panthers are talking more to Gustav Forsling as far an extension over Brandon Montour. There is some momentum a little bit as well on Sam Reinhart, but nothing official. So as far as, we saw with the Elias Pettersson deal a few days ago, Zach Bogosian, even though he's a depth piece for the Minnesota Wild, he got extended. So we're starting to see some extensions here. So maybe something for the Florida Panthers in the next few days. Who knows? But the Panthers, they're looking to add 13 of the last Stanley Cup champions have at least made one transaction. Not saying it's not impossible for the Florida Panthers to go on and win the cup if they don't make a move, which I would feel confident. But at the same time, I would also be okay if they add. But again, the minus 23 in the postseason, that number that I posted the other day for Tarasenko, how are you feeling about him having his preferred destination as South Florida?
Well, it's great for the Panthers that a guy with Tarasenko's pedigree is interested in coming here. It's just another one on the list. I don't know how much I like the fit because he's not known as a heavy forechecker. He's not known as a defensive ace really, and it's not like he's going to be playing. He's not going to be stapled to a line necessarily where he can get away with not playing defense. Because if you were to put him on a line with Barkov or you put him on a line with Bennett, those are big minutes. Those are heavy minutes against other teams' top lines. So he's going to have to play some level of defense unless you stick him on the third line. And even then, with Eetu and Anton Lundell, you want someone who's going to contribute defensively with those two guys. So I don't know if he's really a fit. He could definitely help the power play. Not that the top unit needs any help, but the second unit could definitely use another shooter because oftentimes you see Tkachuk double shifting. He could help there. And then also he's won a Stanley Cup. You can't discredit that. He won a Stanley Cup in St. Louis. He scored some really big timely goals in that playoff run. You can't say he's not a winner. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been a franchise player. He's on not necessarily the tail end of his career, but he's on the role player side of his career versus the top line superstar side of his career. He's had a couple shoulder surgeries, so durability may be a concern, but you get him as a pure rental. The thing that interests me is he has a no move clause. He very well could tell Ottawa he will not waive it for anyone but Florida, in which case you can get him for pennies on the dollar. And then at that point, then it makes a lot more sense. So I could see it. He's not necessarily my preferred target. I would much prefer to see a reunion with Anthony Duclair. I could see Barabanov out of San Jose. There's other guys out there that I think could really, really help with more of a two-way style and also familiarity with the system. But yeah, he's a guy with pedigree. He's a winner. He's won a cup. I don't think he'd be a detrimental player. Just not sure about the fit, but it's intriguing for sure.
And we've seen this before with the Panthers, where guy doesn't necessarily perform well somewhere else, and then they come here, and can Paul Maurice get that to Tarasenko to be more of a heavy forechecker, which you said that he would be on the third line, which I'm not expecting Cousins to go on some type of tear, even though he played on the second line a good amount of the postseason. Which, listen, I mean, when you think about that line, that second line specifically of him, Bennett, and Tkachuk, they're, I'm going to use a clean word, a-holes on the ice. But if you need a little bit more of a punch there for as far as balancing out the lineup, you could put Tarasenko on that third line on the right wing, because even though he's a left-handed shot, he does specifically stay on the right side. And you said about double shifting, Tkachuk plays on that right side there. That could be a little bit of minutes that could be saved for Tkachuk in different situations, and just put him specifically on power play 1. You could put Erod back on line 1 and then put Verhaeghe back on 2 because he's familiar with Bennett. So that would actually create a lot more balance. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, is he committed to that style of play? And when you look at kind of when you see what Anthony Mantha, the trade for Anthony Mantha to Vegas, and what the Panthers gave up, I'm not saying that Anthony Mantha is not the style of player that Tarasenko is, but still, you're kind of seeing like what the market is, and the fact that he's not that dominant goal scorer. Maybe the Panthers. Who has the leverage here? Bill Zito. It's him that has the leverage now. Now that we know, and that it's public, that it is his preferred destination to come to South Florida. And we will know something. Even though the Panthers have a good amount of cap space going into the deadline, if there is retained salary, watch out. There could be one more move after that.
I definitely agree with that. If they were to get him, I definitely wouldn't think that would be the one and only move. Now, this is a very different situation than the Panthers were in last year, when they were the only team in the entire league to not be involved in some sort of trade at the deadline. I don't expect the Panthers to do that this year. I think there's going to be some move made, and I fully expect that there will be at least one forward and at least one defenseman brought in. That's my prediction on deadline day, because if you're a team like Florida, you want to make a deep run. It's unrealistic to think that your D-core will stay healthy entirely. It's unrealistic to think that you can run the same lines the entire time. And if you think about it, Vladimir Tarasenko is 1,000% undebate. You can't even debate this. He's an upgrade in the lineup in any spot over a guy like Will Lockwood, a guy like Steven Lorentz, who no knock on those guys. But we're talking about a guy who's a Stanley Cup champion, who's been one of the better players in the league, one of the better goal scorers in the league for a long time. If you can get him, and you can get him at a discount, you absolutely do it, because when you get to the playoffs, you want as many combinations and as many options as you can possibly have for what you can do with your roster and what you can do with your lines. And Tarasenko definitely gives you that flexibility, because he can play anywhere, lines 1 through 3, which is more ideal in an injury situation or in a situation where a line goes cold. You can put him there and expect better results than if you put in a Will Lockwood or a Steven Lorentz or even a Mackie Samoskevich if you threw him into a playoff situation. Tarasenko is a little bit more reliable given his track record.
And really, ever since the 2020, 2021 seasons, he's been healthy for the most part. So durability hasn't been a big issue for him outside of those 2 seasons too. I remember he had a bad relationship with the medical staff in St. Louis just a few seasons ago, and then we were even discussing at the time that the Panthers should trade for him. But now they have a opportunity to do it at a lot cheaper price there. I remember we were discussing a trade for him and Landeskog at the time. I remember that, but crazy how times have changed there. But it's great to see if you're the Panthers, and knowing that you have that leverage there. And we'll see what happens because there's going to be more trades coming. We're expecting a Jake Gensel trade maybe tomorrow evening too. So at least that's what the reports say. So buckle up, guys, because it's on the news, and the smoke screens are only going to intensify as we get closer to March 8th at 3 p.m. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. The Florida Panthers defeat the New Jersey Devils on the road 5-3, sweep the 3-game road trip, and we'll be back at home on Thursday night against the Philadelphia Flyers for 2000s night. But Jacob, tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8, and for better or worse, you can catch me at the game on Saturday against Calgary. If the Panthers are still on a win streak by then, it's a good bet that it'll be over on Saturday with me in the building. But I should see some of you guys there.
And if they do lose on Saturday, you have every right to at Jacob on X. So that's if. But thank you so much once again, my friend. And I will see you next week as the Panthers will visit the Dallas Stars, who just recently got Chris Tanev. So see you next week, my friend.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.